After that intro, I can only disappoint, so get ready.
That's not true. So, Martín, good afternoon. Buenas tardes. It's such a pleasure. I feel so honored to be spending this time with you and get to chat. As an alum, I'm also I admire you. I was very stressed out. Ask the students. I told them all day, I'm very nervous because I admire you, and I want to make sure that we inspire all our students today. And everyone here is so lucky and was so eager to see you, which speaks so much and fondly of you, right? First of all, I want to thank Erwin and Daniela and all the leadership team for understanding how valuable this hour is and that we're doing this. I think it's really, really good that we're spending an hour talking about, the Jaguar journey in a way and how it translates to real life. And I guess my first question, so that you can tell us a little bit about, how you ended up where you are now, is SCCS. As an alum, I feel like we all remember parts of SCCS and the Jaguar life in a very distinct way, depending on what we lived here, of course. And a common theme we say now is once a Jaguar, always a Jaguar, right? So we all feel belonging in a way, very particular to the school, because we remember places, people, things that were dear to us. And as Erwin was saying, you were one of those people who really belonged here. Like you were part of so many things. So when you think of SCCS, what do you remember?
So first, thank you for giving me the hour. Thank you for being here. I didn't start at SCCS. I started at Colegio Franco. My parents didn't love the United States. And the United States was not very lovable in the 70s in Latin America. But I was a very bad student in Franco. I would get 4 out of 7, which was, my game was to get barely enough to pass, but not more. And I managed for first grade, second grade, third grade to just get 4s out of 7. And I didn't speak English, so Colegio Americano was not in the cards. But by destiny, our neighbor in Avenida Alemania was Miss Zapata, who's right next by my mother. And she taught me English. And I remember the little cards, word by word by word, and convinced my mom that the American school was a very good school. And I remember coming here, and I was supposed, as Erwin said, I was supposed to transfer to the 4th grade. And the school said, listen, you're a barely passing student and you don't speak English. How about we put you in the 3rd grade? So there I was, a year and a half older than everyone else in the 3rd grade, and that's how I started. And I started originally with the same objective of getting 4s. That strategy was working well for me. And then there's a second teacher, Miss Antelo, and she looked at me one day, and I can't remember why. She said, you're really smart. How about you use it every once in a while? And I was like, what for? She said, no, because it's really great. And I started to use it. And then became a better student, got transferred to the 4th grade. And then I had another lesson, which is I was in the 4th grade. I didn't understand half the things were being said. And I remember there was a quiz. Miss Katzman was doing a quiz, and she was tough. And I didn't understand any of the questions. And brilliant Erwin Landívar was sitting right next to me, and he understood everything. And I just took a little look, just to see the direction of the test. And Miss Katzman came over to me, and she just grabbed my test and ripped it in front of everyone. And that was so good. It was the last time I cheated. And it was a lesson. And then as I continued through high school, engaged deeply with the teachers. Mr. Lopez, Mr. Olson, I really enjoyed the journeys in which they took me. I really enjoyed debating, and I enjoyed all the activities of the school. And it was so rewarding. It was, even seeing these pictures, I was in much better shape back then. It was a good time. It was rich, it was cosmopolitan, it was free-flowing of energy. And it was a beautiful, beautiful experience.
That sounds so great. And also, I mean, when I think of, and probably you found out or heard, but last weekend we had our cultural convention come back from so many years, right? We hadn't had it, and it was, as an alum, I also remembered it when I was little that it used to take place. And we saw this last weekend, so much joy and fun, and I think that was very important to see it in the school setting, such different activities. And you were part of so many, right? I mean, I remember Mr. Stuco, this lovely name they used to always call you. Tell us about all the clubs, all the things that you participated in the Jaguar life. How was that?
Listen, I tried to do everything. The only things I couldn't do were the physical sports, because I have hemophilia, so I can't do soccer and basketball, and that was the problem. But other than that, I tried everything. Spelling bee, Scrabble, cultural convention, I even acted. I can't act. I even pretended to sing. I'm not a very good singer. I took it all, and it was wonderful.
Yeah, I hear you make a good Luis Miguel impression, right?
Impression.
We might have to check that out someday. That's amazing. So how was Santa Cruz in the 80s? I mean, I see these pictures, and a lot of the 80s, I was born in the 80s.
Thank you.
So I remember a little bit.
When we met, she said, I was in first grade when you were a senior. I was like, thank you.
I did say that. I just wanted to say, I remembered you fondly, with my family, with your family. So I remember, all the love. My cousin was your classmate, so I remember very, very close relationships. So how was Santa Cruz in the 80s, and how is it so different now, what you see now when you come back?
The 80s were very weird. On one dimension, it felt very cosmopolitan and very wealthy. There were a lot of foreigners, there was a lot of money coming from oil, drug trade, so there was a lot of positive energy. On the other hand, it was a period of really tough volatility. We had hyperinflation. We had 9 presidents in 10 years. Bolivia was extremely unstable. And I'm going to switch to Spanish just for one moment, and you'll find out why. Era un momento de mucha inflación, y la escuela era dolarizada. Y yo me acuerdo una época que el salario de mi mamá era $25. Y la escuela era $20 por mes por alumno. Y mi mamá era la que decía que teníamos que estar en la escuela americana. Y en honor a mi mamá, hoy mi mujer Daniela y yo estamos patrocinando una beca que se va a llamar Doctora Irena, que va a financiar 5 alumnos por 10 años en la escuela americana. En honor a mi mamá.
Martín, qué hermosa noticia. Señora Irene, sin duda, nuestros padres merecen muchísimo más de lo que a veces nos damos cuenta, ¿cierto? El esfuerzo y el sacrificio que muchas veces hablamos con los chicos a eso, de practicar mucho la gratitud, ¿no? De que realmente no vemos el esfuerzo diario de nuestros padres y merecen, ¿no? Hay todos los papás que están aquí, un aplauso muy fuerte, porque sí, los chicos muchas veces no nos damos cuenta hasta después. Pero, wow, qué gran noticia, qué hermoso gesto, de verdad, muchísimas gracias. De parte de la comunidad eso es súper valioso, porque son momentos difíciles también, estabas hablando, ¿no? We're going to switch back a little bit to English, but it is a very different time, but in many ways very alike in terms of, and right now I want to pivot into, right now we have seniors about to leave school, and they, most of them are waiting for acceptances or have already committed to their college, and juniors are already thinking about it in 10th and 9th grade. They're having their minds about college. How was that? How did SCCS prepare you for that, and how was that experience at that time of your life at Harvard?
So first, how did I end up at Harvard? I needed a scholarship, and at the time, only 12 schools in America provided full ride scholarships for international students. So let's just say my universe of potential universities was very limited, and I did not know how hard it would be to get in. But I got in to a bunch of schools, and I had never been to the United States. So I looked at the US World and News Report, and I saw Yale was number 1, Stanford was number 2, Harvard was number 3. So I said, I'm going to Yale. I don't know the difference between Yale, Harvard, and Stanford. Yale is number 1. Why would I go to number 1? So I'm about to send my I accept letter, and I'm in my kitchen, and there's a call from the mayor of La Paz, this guy called Ronnie McLean. And I thought it was a joke. I was like, no mayor calls. Like, no, it's the mayor. So the mayor calls me, and he says, Hijo, I'm calling to congratulate you on getting into Harvard, and I'm a Harvard graduate of the School of Government, the graduate school. And welcome to the Harvard family. And I said, Mr. Governor, I'm really sorry, but I want to go to number 1. And he's like, you don't know what you're talking about. And I said, no, sir, U.S. World News Report, it says number 1, number 2, number 3, and he's like, no, you're coming to La Paz, and we're going to spend the day, and I'm going to explain how this all works. And he flew me to La Paz, and we went to this beautiful, he was the alcalde or governor, I can't remember, but big palace, long table. And he says, you're going to Harvard. And I said, yes, sir. And then I show up at Harvard, and I was so sure I was the dumbest of 1,600 kids. Not only was I the dumbest, I was the ugliest, because you used to have, trust me, we used to have the mandatory military service in Bolivia, and if you had a medical exemption, you could not do it, but you had to show up, and they would shave your head. Right. And I don't have a small head. This head shaved, not a good look. So this is how I arrived at Harvard, feeling dumb, ugly, bald. And the first couple of weeks were very depressing. And then I met a fellow Peruvian. And we bonded. And then I met a fellow Colombian. And then I get a guy from Nepal, and people from different walks of life. And quickly, as I got a little bit of self-confidence, I found out that what I had learned here was more than enough. You just have to work hard and not have an inferiority complex. One of the hard things for me is I had never met a Bolivian that had gone to an Ivy League. I didn't know of any. If you see one, you realize they're normal. They walk like you, they go to schools like you, they have a similar background, similar ethnicity, similar life, and you get a little less insecure. So one of the things, as I think of my career, there's been a number of firsts. We can go through all of them, but the first Bolivian at Harvard, but 6 years later, there was the second one, which was my sister, Valeria, and now, fast forward 35 years, I think there's been 50. And across the Ivy Leagues, there's been hundreds and hundreds, and I think the importance of seeing people like you doing things that you think are not doable makes it a little easier. But you guys are ready. You guys can go anywhere.
That's amazing. Very true. And thinking about that, how was Harvard life compared to SCCS life? Like, did you get involved in college to many things with many clubs or interests? How was that life?
So I decided, since I was South American champion of debate, that I should go debate. And I joined the debate club, except the Harvard version of the debate club is extemporaneous debate. You don't prepare, you show up, they give you a topic, they say you're pro or against, and you have to start speaking immediately. So it's a lot more fun. And I thought I was really good. The first tournament, I debated against Ted Cruz, the senator from the US who's destroyed me. So I decided maybe debating was not for me. The one activity I did do, which changed my life, was work for Harvard student agencies. I needed a job to pay for extras, and I started working in the kitchen. and that wasn't very motivating. So I decided to get a job at this sort of student agencies thing, which is a small business that's run by students, to make money, because I did not want to go into business. I wanted to go become an economist, go work for the World Bank, help save poor nations, and then one day maybe try to come to Bolivia and be finance minister and dream of being president, things like teenagers think of. But in working in this little company, I saw that there's so rewarding to be in an environment where you get stuff done, where you have a vision about a service, you provide the service, you have margin, you have profits, you use the profits to invest in improving the service. So I developed an appreciation for the reality of business, and that became my main activity. So I did that for 3.5 years, and it awoke an interest in business and led to me spending the next 30 years in business, but by accident. I just needed the money to go on dates,
You do need money for that.
You do need money.
It's true. And so what happened next? What was I know that you stayed at Harvard for grad school as well. So how was that choice? Like, what happened then afterwards? Why did you choose to stay?
I love Harvard. To me, if you're Harry Potter and you land in Hogwarts Academy, that's how I felt. I wasn't the only nerd. Everyone around me is a nerd. And the place was magical. And after that impression, I still haven't left Harvard. Mm-hmm. I'm still like in 2 boards at Harvard. So to me, Harvard is very special. Coming out of business school, I had the choice of staying in the United States and getting a normal job, or doing something in Latin America, maybe coming back to Bolivia or going somewhere else. Bolivia felt small, and America felt not wild enough, not adventurous enough. I think one of the advantages of growing up in Santa Cruz is it's so wild that you develop a liking for wild. So I was like, I want wild, but it's America, not wild. Brazil, wild. So I went to Brazil, thinking I would stay 2 years, met the love of my life, stayed 20. But I went to work in finance, doing investing, and then something amazing happened, something that happens once in a generation. Every human will have, when you're in your 20s, one revolution will happen around you. And I had, I don't know if you guys watched the Hamilton musical where he says, one shot. Like, I'm looking for my one shot. I'm hungry, I'm looking for my one shot. My one shot, when I was 26, was something called the internet. And it was, you guys have no idea what world before internet was like.
They do not.
I know I'm something old, but there was life before internet. But it was very different. And I saw how it would change everything. And I said, I have to be part of this revolution. I cannot be a bureaucrat. I can't be an investor. I have to be in the front lines of what is my shot. And that was the internet. And so we left corporate job and started from zero with a business plan to build the Amazon.com of Brazil. And it was a wild ride. We were doing great. Then the market collapsed and we almost ran out of money. We almost shut down. We almost died. We made a profit. We survived. We went public. We sold the business. It was like 30 years of life compressed into 7. And I took my shot, and it was wonderful. It was wonderful. And you too will have your shot. Some point while you're in your 20s, you will see a revolution. You will see a dramatic opportunity to create incredible adventure. It could be related to artificial intelligence. It could be related to things that are going on in the politics of Bolivia, and things are so volatile. It could be the next technology. But as I look back on my life, and I look back on a lot of young people I interact with, I remind them that you will have one shot at a revolution. And I highly recommend all of you become revolutionaries.
That's really good advice. And I was thinking that, as an entrepreneur, I think a lot of our students wish or they dream with entrepreneurship, and then many of them have businesses. I think of their little, a lot of them have already that spirit, and they already are selling things, thinking about solving problems all the time. I was one myself. I know how, and so many in Santa Cruz is very common, right? We had to look for creating things that we didn't have, right? Or solve things that we couldn't solve. And so what does that mind or that mindset look like that maybe we can adapt and learn from entrepreneurs?
Listen, entrepreneurship is incredibly rewarding because you create something out of nothing at all. It starts with an idea in your head that becomes an idea in a piece of paper that becomes a reality. That reality is incredibly fulfilling. Paper to reality is really hard because everything that can go wrong will go wrong. Nothing happens easily. So if you choose to be an entrepreneur, choose three things. First, choose a topic you really care about. Mm-hmm. You care about education, do you care about hospitality, do you care about technology? Choose something that's meaningful beyond just making money and making means. Because you'll need that extra gas of oxygen to carry you through the dark days of the lunch. First. Second, choose a business model that's high margin. You want things that have high margin. Low margin businesses are really tough. And third, do it with great people. If you get the three things right, your chances of success are 20 times bigger.
Did you write that down, everybody? We want to make sure we pick that up. Following on that, what do all these parts of our lives or labels that we have in life, like first, and this talk is called From a Student to a Leader. So like as a student, as a leader, as an economist, as, all the labels that we can, put on ourselves, as a husband, as an entrepreneur, investor, what do you think they all have in common though? In terms of values, in terms of mindset, what do you think all those labels sort of like, if we can realize that we're all the same person evolving or changing, how do you recognize Martín, the student, to today? Like, what's inside that hasn't changed?
You will change through life. Your values won't change. In my experience, there are two types of people in the world. People that live in the dark side of the force, and people who live in the right side of the force. And people who step into the dark side seldom come back. So be in the right side of the force, because that makes everything is different if at some point you stepped into that muddle of the dark side of the force. So that is a guiding principle. What hasn't changed, and it's advice I give to a lot of young people. Every time I was in a fork on the road, and you in your life will be through hundreds, dozens of forks on the road. Do I go this way or do I go that way? I always chose the most adventurous route. I was like, what's going to be the biggest adventure? And that always was the right answer for me. And I've come to believe at the end of life, and you guys are very far from it, when you're in the cemetery, it's not who made most money or who had most world records. I think it's he who has the best stories is the one who wins in the cemetery. So if you choose the path of adventure and you're always seeking the adventure, I think you will live a rich and meaningful, and if you're the right side of the force, an ethical life.
It's very good advice. Thank you. Adventures. And talking about adventures, because I think, like I was saying, our seniors are 2 months away from graduation. Woo, go class of 225. But they're very close to their new adventure. And all of you will someday go to college. the world can seem like a really daunting place right now and a very scary place sometimes. A lot of bad news going on. Even in our country, the circumstance what we're living through can feel like it's a lot. How do we keep up with the good, the faith and the hope and looking ahead of the future with a lot of, good vibes and feeling like, hey, good stuff will happen? How do you keep that mindset up, even though we can see or we can be scared of going into that life right now that seems like a very dark place?
So listen, we suffer from myopia. We're so exposed to everything that's going on around us, and it's so dramatic and it's so scary that we lose sight of perspective. 1990, 40% of the world lived below the poverty line. 40% of the world was poor. And the definition of poor is they make less than $2 per day. Today, 7% of the world is poor. We lifted 1.8 billion people out of poverty between the day I graduated from this school and today.
It's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people. The world's a lot better. Bolivia looks really scary right now. Should try out the 90s. 9 presidents in 10 years, 35,000% inflation, violence. Every weekend, violence, fights everywhere. It was scary then too. And my parents would give me the perspective that when they were in school, the dictatorship in Argentina was sending people off to disappearing camps, thinking, you think that's violence? So we lose a little bit of perspective. So if you take the longer view, the world is not in a horrible place. If you take the longer view, technology is changing all the careers. AI is a fantastic revolution, and your ability to use the most advanced technology in the world in the landlocked country in the middle of Bolivia is perfect. So I am incredibly optimistic about what the future of your generation is going to be. Now, how do you cope? I'm going to give you a little trick. Think about your mental time. What % of your mental time are you in the past, thinking about, oh, I should have asked that girl out, oh, I should have done that, or my mom is going to be upset when she finds out I did that, or the future. What's going to happen? Who's going to be president of Bolivia? How am I going to find a husband? How am I going to find a wife? Or where am I going? I can't get into any school. Or just the present. Most people spend most of their time either in the past, mental time, or the future. That is a waste of time. The only thing that matters is today. And the more you focus your time on today, the more you will savor your life, and the more you will be in the moment doing the thing that the universe meant for you to be doing. So stop thinking about the past, stop thinking about the future.
And maybe one of the last questions I want to ask you, that you just mentioned the word, what you just said, what you're meant to do, right? So I think as a student, when we're young, we're always thinking about, what am I meant to do, right? Like, what am I good at? Like, what am I passionate about? How do I know what passion is? We teach that a lot in our classrooms about flow and about trying to, where do I lose time in? What do I really enjoy? Is this enjoyment? Not really. A lot of the seniors we talk and they're like, I don't know what I want to major in yet. Like, I think I know, but maybe I'm not sure. Maybe I like many things like you. How do I choose one thing?
So, I always did 5-year plans. And I kept journals since I was 11. So I have like this beautiful 37 journals. None of the 5-year plans remotely worked. So that's a waste of time. The most important decision you're going to face, the most significant decision you're going to face, is who you're going to marry. Don't go at it alone. The life with a partner is 100 times more fun than life alone. So the most important decision is to choose a partner. So I took this very seriously. So I had a spreadsheet where I had the criteria of...
Formula.
A formula. the perfect wife with weights. This is very important, this is less important, this will fade, so just a taste. It had 11 criteria, and I back tested my 12 girlfriends. And I said, okay, that makes sense. You know, that was the universe.
They didn't make it, though. They didn't make the cut.
I didn't make the cut. No, we didn't make the cut. So I had it, and then I stumbled into Daniela, who scored the lowest of the 12. But she was perfect. I had no idea what was good for me. We don't know what we're going to like until we try it. So try a bunch of things. I don't mean be promiscuous in your dating. It's about your career. This is not about dating.
That is not the advice. Lots of adventure. And I think we can. There's a couple of questions from the audience, from our students, and I'm really eager to listen to those, and I want to make sure we get to those. But it's so great to have you back, and I feel like it's so easy to talk to and inspiring. You're always so humble and unique in your ways, and I think everybody, you can see this auditorium is full with people who are really happy to see you, who clearly love you, who are very happy to see you, and we're very proud of you. I think the Jaguar community is so super proud of you, to feel like you're one of us. You know, once a Jaguar, you're always a Jaguar. And before you leave, give us, how do you see the school? How do you see the school moving forward? And what should we be focusing, everyone as a community, what should we be focusing on to make this the best place it could be?
Listen, the school has changed a lot. The infrastructure is amazing. The resources have improved a lot. I find diversity of backgrounds, diversity of nationalities, languages, is so enriching. Mm-hmm. So as I look around, I think the school has progressed in every dimension except that one. And it's a reflection of Santa Cruz. Santa Cruz is no longer a thriving multinational metropolis that it was when we had oil. But I think the school is doing so much great. But I think if there's one nudge, is try to mix it up a little more.
Diversity of thought also, right? Yes. That's wonderful. We'll make sure we work on that. We have a couple of questions. I know there's an investment club and who's really eager to meet you and has been like, they're so happy. I know there's a question from there, and I know that Carolina and Kyla have mics. So if we can maybe hear one question from the audience now. Thank you for the lights. There was one that I know is eager. Where is our investment club? There we go. Agustin Antelo, I know there he is. Go, Agus.
Hello, good evening. You talked about how at first you thought the lessons you learned from here weren't good enough for Harvard, but with hard work, when you applied them, they really worked. What would you say was the most valuable lesson you learned at SCCS that you still use today?
So for doing debating, the year we did really well, my partner Janet and I were trained by, I mean, you guys won't know this, but some of you will remember, Mr. Lopez and Mrs. Wilkins. Now, there are no people more different than Mr. Lopez and Mrs. Wilkins. I mean, Mr. Lopez was free-loving, party, charismatic. Miss Wilkins was British, tight-lipped, and the beauty of having two people with such different perspectives teaching you in the process of debating, which is you have to be able to say you defend point A, and then in 30 minutes later defend point B. The learning of that experience is there is no absolute truth. There's always more than one perspective to a reality. No one is the owner of the only truth. And that flexibility to be able to empathize with those you profoundly disagree with until you understand why they feel like they feel with conviction and intelligence, then you can build bridges, then you can negotiate, then you can build partnerships. That, I think, is very meaningful.
Do we have another question?
Yes.
Emiliano, there we go.
Hello, Mr. Escobari. Thank you for being here today. So my question is a little bit more relating to the finance and the private equity world, and it would be like a specific advice to be able to thrive and succeed in the finance world in today's days.
Do not become a hedge fund trader.
Why?
There's no edge, there's no alpha, and the machines will take your job. That is a waste of a profession. And you don't impact the companies you invest in. The beauty of private equity is you can influence the outcome. You're not just betting on an outcome. So private equity I found to be, and I've been doing this for 20 years, very rewarding because you choose great companies and you make them better. And you make a lot of money on the way. The best skill to become a great investor is to develop the patience to wait for the great company and not waste your energy with the good company. And the challenge is, when you're very young, you don't know the difference between good and great, and you're also in a rush. You want to get stuff done, you want to get promoted, you want to get deal experience. And a lot of people are so impatient that they don't develop the skills to be a careful, calibrated investor. So I think it's a great profession, but you have to have a little bit of patience.
Thank you. And if I can do another one as well. Like focusing especially in the States, what would be an advice to be able to thrive in the States as a new world for us, the ones who are looking to live in the States in the future?
Since it's not crazy enough.
So listen, when I moved back to the States 7 years ago, as an adult, I was already in my 40s, I tried to look for other Brazilians who had migrated in finance successfully to the States as adults, and there weren't that many. There's one guy, who's actually the guy that hired me to go to Brazil, and then he went to the States. And I asked him exactly your question. And he said, listen, when we grow up in the jungle, we're used to driving in roads with potholes and bridges that collapse and mud roads and no maps. And we're really resourceful in moving through that. When we get to America, there's 5-lane highways, and we can go a lot faster. So be ready for the highway because it's a different speed, and the resourcefulness that you learned is going to come in handy when it's snowing or when it's raining or where there's an accident. So all that is good. My improvement to his suggestion, I'm just plagiarizing his and adding, which is, yes, it is a highway, but if you cross a red light, you're screwed. And we're not used to that. So you can go faster, but you cannot cross any red lights, because there is law. There's not wild. So, just go fast, but stop at the red light.
Great, thank you.
I know 6th graders this morning had a question. There we go. I know there were a couple. Antonia? Claro.
¿Cuál fue su promedio cuando se graduó?
Viene desde la mañana preguntándome eso. Yo le decía, no sé, mi amor, le vas a tener que preguntar.
It was really good.
Good answer. Good answer.
¿Y se acuerda de su GPA?
Otra forma de preguntar lo mismo.
Really good. But I'll tell you something. Good grades are table stakes. You have to have an interesting life. Stuco, cultural conventions, sports, volunteer, things that make you interesting is more important than the grades. As important as the grades.
Aurelio, you had a question?
What inspired you to get motivated and just apply to get into Harvard, to get you were saying, maybe in fourth grade you were really, really bad, but what catch you up and make it give the most hardest of you?
Change of mindset. We can always change different, choose different, right?
Wow. This is a really interesting question because my inspiration is different from Lara's inspiration, my 20-year-old, and Sabrina's inspiration, my 15-year-old. It comes from different places. Sometimes it comes from pain, sometimes it comes from love, sometimes it comes from search of adventure. Someone else's fuel is absolutely irrelevant to you. What you have to find is what's the fuel that lights you up. And it's going to be yours. And when you're lit, when you feel inspired, you feel motivated, see, why am I lit right now? And if you understand it, do more of that. But it's not a one-size-fits-all.
Go, sixth grade. Okay.
Those are the best questions so far, by the way.
I know, right? Sixth grade. We have a couple here, no? As well? Okay. Ooh, there we go.
Yeah.
On the right side.
What was your favorite subject in school?
So, interestingly, it was always about the teacher. Like, I never thought I would like chemistry, and then we had a cool chemistry teacher, and I loved chemistry. And then psychology, which seemed so soft and mushy, Mr. Lopez made it interesting and exciting. So it was about the teacher, and I had fabulous teachers. I always choose the teacher.
Tengo una pregunta.
Oh, where we are. Where were we? Sorry. Okay. Yes, yes.
¿Lo puedo decir en español? Una pregunta, ¿qué estudió usted y en qué trabaja ahorita?
Tú estabas dormido durante la presentación, ¿no? No, estudié economía y trabajo en finanzas ahora.
And maybe before we're done, if there are no more questions, or while we find one, as a counselor, or you have one?
Hi.
Up there.
So-
Yes. Nikki.
As an entrepreneur,
Mario, 1 second. Nikki speaking.
I'm sure you faced a lot of setbacks in your career as an entrepreneur. What's your advice to bounce back from a setback?
That's a good one.
Good, Nikki.
What is your favorite?
No, hold on. I need to answer it. Hold on. Calma.
One at a time, Marito.
Every setback, every difficult near-death experience makes you tough, makes you better, makes you more determined. If you survive it, you're better off. The only thing that's irreversible is it's so tough that you die, so don't do that. Other than that, every disease, every shock, every death of a family member, every tragedy, however incredibly tragic and painful it is, if you survive it, you're going to be so much wiser and stronger by it. And if you accept that, yes, it's painful, but it's going to make me better, then you have a reason to get up. And if you get up, you get better. So just give up.
Thank you.
So last one with Mario. Mario, you have a question? Oh, okay, so right before we close up, I think, yes, okay, of course. Of course.
Sí.
I don't know where the mics are, so you choose. It's too hard for me.
I love to travel. I've been to like over 130 cities.
All right.
Sí.
All right. So just before, we want to thank him, right, with a huge.
I have one more
round of applause.
question.
I'm sorry.
I'll stay behind. I'll stay here, and you guys can ask me more.
Okay. Yes. There's one with the mic up there, right?
Ya, sí, yo tengo una pregunta, ¿la puedo hacer en español?
Sí.
Como líder, ¿cuáles son las cualidades más importantes que busca en las personas que elige para formar en su equipo?
When we're recruiting, like in General Atlantic, it's like really hard to get a job here. It's like 2,000 applicants for every job. I look for high EQ, inteligencia emocional, high IQ, inteligencia analítica, and I look for people who have a track record of getting things done. When I interview people, it's really interesting. There are people who the way they tell their story is the story of a winner. This is how I made things happen despite all the things the universe threw against me. And there are some people who are trying to get a job and their story is about the almost wins. Oh, I was doing so well, but then there was a coup, and then I was doing so well, but then my parents moved me schools, and then I was but then there was the devaluation. I don't care. Everybody's life has setbacks. Do you tell the story of the almost winner, or do you tell the story of a winner? So those are the three things.
Okay, so I know they're eager to ask more, but it's almost, time to leave. I want to make sure that we give him a really round of applause for answering all those questions before he leaves. But the last thing I want to, you just mentioned something that's incredibly important to me right now as a counselor is EQ. So we talk a lot about emotional intelligence because we need it. And I think we don't hear that from the work side as much, right? We talk about it at school and we talk it about, about dealing with emotion a lot, but we don't realize that it matters a lot in the workforce and it matters how we react and what we do with what happens to us, right? And I think when a lot of students visit me, we talk about two things, which is being unique. We're not copies of anyone, we should be unique. And that's powerful. And then dreaming big. For the kids to all here have big dreams, not little dreams, big dreams, right? So how do we do that? How do we develop how have you developed that bigger EQ and big dreams and thinking of?
Okay. We have two systems. The emotional system is 5 million years old. It's built to help us run away from dinosaurs and tigers. It alerts us about danger so that we can move decisively with very little information. Very helpful when we were around dinosaurs. And then we have the head, which is maybe 1 million years old, maybe less, which is the thinking brain, the one that allows us to build a ship that goes to the moon and allows us to make rational decisions. The emotional brain is very hard to manage. It's very wild. And it's so powerful. And you feel it in your skin and your heart rate and your smell and your breathing. It is wrong to try to repress it because you cannot. My advice to all, not just young people, is treat it like a signal. Oh, what? I'm feeling very angry. Listen, put it in words. I'm feeling very angry. Don't act on the anger. And try to understand what is happening that's making you angry, and upon understanding, then you act. So all you need to do is build time between the alarm bell of your emotions ringing and the action you make. And then you get the best of the old brain and the new brain. Build that time so you don't act stupid.
Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you. So I know that Danny and Mr. Thurston have something for you, and I want to make sure that we get to that, but it's been a pleasure. We could stay here all day. Thank you, Martin, so much for your time and todo el cariño. Gracias. Muchas gracias por el tiempo y cariño. La señora igual, muchas gracias por venir.